Boo! Did that scare you? If the answer was no, then I'm afraid to tell you that Evil Dead Burn will probably not scare you either. I'm not the biggest Evil Dead fan. However, I'm a big fan of Sam Raimi and the movies that he does make and produces and has his little grubby fingers in. Because I'm a big horror fan. I like anything that's horror related, whether it be good horror like Cabin in the Woods or bad horror like The Strangers Part 3. Um, we're gonna get into this nitty gritty review. I'm excited to get into the plot. We'll get pretty spoiler heavy, so if you plan on watching this movie, I would say just come back after you watch it. Um, we're gonna talk about how gruesome the kills were, how intense some of the plot points get, and how disappointing the ending was for me personally. So let's just jump right into it. Let's go feet first into this Evil Dead Burn review. The first scene is two dudes fishing, and the first guy catches a demon head. He gets very spooked. He's like, "Oh, gee, willikers, man!" And then he throws his fishing lines in there. They get pulled in by the demons, I would assume. And then those fishing lines come out of the water. They fly up and then wrap around his neck. And he's like, "Oh, Jesus!" It's like, I mean, at this point, any real like fisher or hunter would have like a pocket knife or something to like cut the lines behind his neck, but this guy got completely fucking stun locked into just sitting there and taking it like a good boy. Um, his friend comes back from taking a wee wee, and he's like, "Buddy, where are you? Where are you?" He goes into the lake like on the little boat that they were on, and he gets caught by the demon as well. The demon like grabs the boat, flips it over, so now he's in the water. He's like, "Oh no!" And then she starts boiling the lake. So we get our first taste, excuse me, of the burning in Evil Dead Burn. So this has a lot of burning. There's a lot of fire and stuff like that. They really want to hit the nail on the head with the whole Evil Dead Burn. There's a lot of burning. So after this, we meet the main group of the movie. This is Alice, her husband Will, Joe, and I think her name was Tia. I really don't remember her name. They don't really say the wife's name of Joe a lot. But Alice and her husband Will, who are the owners of this club that we're in, are not cool. They argue all the time. Alice seems to be kind of a partier. She likes to drink. She likes to smoke cigs. She's a real punk rocker. You know what I mean? And Will, it seems like Will's not really vibing with that. Will gives his brother Joe a birthday gift of like $1,000 pen because Joe is a writer. Joe doesn't finish a lot of his books, and Will has something to say about that, like, "Oh, this is for your pen. Maybe it'll actually get you to finish a book, you loser." And it says this like in front of his wife and Joe's wife. So it's just like real brotherly love, you know what I mean? And again, right after this, Alice and Joe kind of like run into each other and almost like quasi kiss. It's very awkward from the jump. It's like kind of a will they won't they between the two. Um, she even says something along the lines of like, "Oh well, I'm French, and you know how we French give each other hand jobs when we say hello." I don't really know if that's true. If you're French, I guess leave it in the comments. HJ's for everybody. Um, Alice and Will get into a fight, a little skirmish, if you will. And this is a reoccurring theme throughout the movie, so I want you to really get this drilled into your head. Alice and Will are fighting a lot. This movie goes into really deep concepts. I say deep with huge air quotes of domestic violence. A lot of DV is around the movie. Um, we'll get into that later. Okay, so Will gets in the car. He's drunk. He's driving. And when you know it, that's a bad decision. The demon lady steps out of the road. This is right after the lake endeavor, mind you. So he hits the demon lady. Boom. She breaks through the windshield. She's crying. And she goes, turns her head. "Take me to your family, Will." And then her head rolls off, and then wouldn't you know it, she says these words from the Necronomicon, which is a great callback to the original Evil Dead films, and every other Evil Dead film has something to do with the Necronomicon. And then, boom, his car sets ablaze immediately. Roll title card, Evil Dead Burn. You see what I mean? There's a lot of burning, a lot of fire. I really don't know why immediately after this we go into like um I don't know immediately why after this we go into a funeral scene. this guy's a real piece of shit. He almost hit his wife in the previous scene. We literally saw him like raise his hand up to hit his wife. So that was a very interesting take that even anybody was mourning him. We meet Max, who's the dog of the family. Will, Joe, Alice. It's kind of like the family dog that's been with the parents for a while. So we meet mom and dad. Dad kind of seems like this Evil Dead resident. He's not all the way there, kind of like losing it because, his oldest son just died. After the funeral procession ends up, the guy cremating him is listening to fucking like MCR or something. He's just like headbanging around, fucking with the body. The dad comes up and he's like, "Hey man, let me talk to my son one last time, please." And he's like, "I'm not usually allowed to do this. I'm actually gonna get yelled at if I let you in the back here." First of all, no, there's just no way that you would let this like dad just back there with a dead body and ashes of other bodies, but whatever. Well, I guess we'll just play dumb for now. I wonder if that happens IRL. If you've ever, seen I guess the inside of a morgue. Would it be a funeral home? A crematorium? Either way, hit me up. I'm very interested. If you work there, hit me up. I'm pretty sure the dad got possessed while talking to his son because he hears like knocking on the casket and he's like, my son, and then immediately starts kind of tweaking like a Resident Evil NPC. The family sits down for dinner after we go home. We return back to the family manor, which is kind of like where they all grew up. It's now kind of a vacation house, and the tension is palpable. You can cut it with a knife. I would say you can even cut it with a spoon or a fork. They're going over to Alice running the restaurant. Keep in mind, her husband just died. They're trying to push all this responsibility onto Alice immediately upon everything that just happened. And they're grilling her about her wanting to take some space. She says that she wants to go back home to France to talk with some family. Again, her husband just died. I consider that to be pretty realistic. The dad starts to genuinely tweak out, making sounds. He's like, eating his food. He's shoveling it into his mouth. So at this point, my suspicions are kind of confirmed that he is definitely possessed by some sort of demon or deity. And then all of a sudden, he reaches up and smacks his dog. He like puts both hands up and pushes the dog, smacks the dog. All right. Then after that, the arguing continues. It swells up until the dad starts to grab a fork, and then he stabs the dog while saying that it's Joe's fault that he let Will die. I don't know why we needed to watch the dog get stabbed multiple times with a fork. It felt like the obsession scene with Nikki and, where she was slamming Sarah's head into the steering wheel over and over again. It just felt like 10 to 15 seconds, like too long. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I was like too shocked and it wasn't even 10 seconds long. It was just like, I was just so taken aback by the fact that they would even, take out a dog in this way. But anyways, let's move on. Dad is fully possessed at this point, and he's on the way to the hospital. Joe's on the way to the hospital, and Dad wakes up, and he goes fucking bonkers, dude. He starts going close quarter combat, car fighting style, just beating up Joe's wife. And then all of a sudden, Joe grabs the gun that he got after his brother died because he wanted to seem like a badass. And he starts pointing it at his dad. He's like, stop trying to beat up my wife. And she's begging him. And I mean actually begging him to just end this dude's life. And he does not do it. He, in fact, gets out of the car and runs away like a little bitch boy. It is absolutely insane. Insane. So, we cut back to Alice finding the granddad's old writings in the shed. And she starts to read them out loud like an actual goober. Like reading pig Latin, this old Latin. Starts to like almost curse herself. And then all of a sudden, she doesn't read the last word, but because she read pretty much 95% of the curse, Max, the dead dog, is now reanimated, coming back, and jumps to attack her. And then she kills this dog for the second time this movie. That's 2 dog deaths, and it's not even 2 different dogs. It is the same dog over and over again. So First of all, just wow. This was all in the span of like 5 minutes. I'm not even kidding. They take the dog out, they bury the dog comes back, they kill the dog again. Can we leave this dog alone? Like, actually, I'm all okay with gore and, really gruesome kills in horror. But if you're, resorting to killing pets, animals for a cheap scare, even if that's not what you're doing, it just seems super, super, super low brow, especially for a producer like Sam Raimi. I don't know. Maybe there was something that he was trying to convey with that, but I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, Tia comes back to the house and she has the headrest in her neck. We see it from the trailer. This is the trailer shot where, the dad puts the headrest through her neck. It's coming out of her mouth. It's actually a really cool makeup shot. And she just knocks on the door like nothing happened. She's like, honey, I'm home. Comes in there and then starts beating everybody's ass, hand-to-hand combat. Everybody, as soon as they become a demon, becomes Jet Li in this film. It is actually pretty sick. I actually just became Jet Li. I punched the shit out of my mic right there. I don't know if you guys saw that. Oh, yeah. Coming back to that, just to add on another point, she drinks candle wax. I don't know if this is like a super like hardcore thing. Maybe they were just trying to make her seem like evil by drinking candle wax, but it just kind of looked like she was drinking like a huge load of cum. It was not that scary. It kind of was goofy. I kind of heard a lot of people in the theater like snickering. They lock her inside the basement and go outside, and the dad is power stanced outside. All right, let's pause real quick. I'm gonna show what the power stance is like. Are you ready? And then the dog comes up, and he calls the dog with like this whistle, and Max comes up. Keep in mind that Max, the dog, has been killed in this movie twice. Okay, and then he takes a gun out, the gun out that was supposed to be used on him, and he says, "You should be dead and not Will." And then he takes the gun and commits Avengers Endgame on himself. And then that doesn't kill him, so then he takes it again and puts it underneath his chin, does the same thing, and that doesn't work. And then he does it for a third time on the other side of his head. And at that point, it's literally that scene from South Park. Editor Jay, can you put in that clip from South Park where I think it's Michael Jackson that's literally trying to end his own shit over and over again, and it just does not work. It actually got like a big laugh out of me, I'm not gonna lie. Joe is literally a giant pussy in the middle of all of this. He's been getting begged to help out. He's getting begged. People are dying in front of him, and he just freezes every single time. His wife, I mean, his he lets his brother's wife die. His mom gets her ass beat. It's actually really frustrating to just watch him sit around and get his ass kicked too. And then again, he let his wife die. He's not like the greatest dude in the world. We finally get the trailer shot where he falls backwards and gets stabbed in the back with a bunch of knives from the washing machine. And then Joe's wife like licks his face all bloody. There's a lot of like licking and like getting all smeared in blood. It's a lot of like gross horror, which has never really made me squirm and get weird. Um, but there was a scene later on that I will bring up. The demons want this knife, and they have made it clear since they have been resurrected. They want the knife. They want the knife. They want the knife of, I don't remember the name of it, but it's a special knife. And as soon as they demolish the knife, the demons can take over the world. They will do whatever they want to get that, okay? Alice knocks Joe's wife down the stairs, and then Joe finally gets the balls to make a move, and he like takes the dishwasher cover, and Captain America slams her head, like bashes her head in like multiple times. Again, it's like just a little bit too long, but maybe that's the point. It's supposed to be like a little bit gruesome. And at the end of it, everyone's kind of looking at him like, well, this guy's kind of losing it, man. Alice keeps having these visions of when Will would just beat her senseless when she was alive, and she starts like kind of having like spider sense about it. And now there's this voice that's coming from the demons, I'm guessing, from all the blood being put in each other's orifices and stuff like that. It seems like blood transfusion is the way that these demons can kind of like get inside your brain. So there's a lot of visions of the domestic violence that are happening or was happening while Will and Alice were together when they were or when he was alive, and they're basically saying, "Well, you liked it so much, that's why you stayed around." Which, like, first of all, crazy line, even for a demon. Holy shit, that is low, Buster. Now we get to hear about the granddad and how instability, how his instability is actually him studying up all these demons. So basically, his entire life, he has just been dedicated to stopping the, corporeal realm from getting taken over by deities, which is kind of good work, I suppose, if it's real. Um, he used to say, "Don't read from the Book of the Dead, or else demons will come." Who would have guessed if you read from the Book of the Dead that demons would come? He collected trinkets to help protect him and his family. Um, we cut back to mom and grandma yapping about monsters under the bed. It seems like grandma has regressed quite a bit at this point. Mom checks under the bed and Granny shoots up straight erect from the bed. This whole family is turning into the Buckners from Cabin in the Woods, which is amazing. It's right out of that film. Mom gets convinced to join the demons and starts making out with her husband. It's very, very, very. A lot of this is like super horny demon, which is kind of Evil Dead coded, but it legitimately goes on for like an entire minute long, which is wild. The mom comes down the stairs and tries to tell Joe to give the demon the weapon. She still has like blood all over her mouth. There's no dagger. He doesn't know where it is, so it's fighting time. Dad beats mom's ass with her like metal art that she said earlier in the movie meant a lot to her because, she doesn't get to do a lot anymore. She makes this art. And dad says it's a piece of shit artwork. So it kind of seems like she's not really full demon yet because she still kind of has like empathy for Joe and dare I say, her husband, who's still trapped in this body. Um, Now, Dad grabs Joe and drags him over to his wife's mutilated body, and he's like, "Where's the dagger?" And he doesn't know, so he takes his head, Joe's head, and shoves it into his wife's like bashed in face, like a dog, like you rub in a dog's face in the olden times in a pee. That's what he did with his face. Super gross, super gnarly. It actually made me wince for like the first time in this movie. I was like, oh, dude, just nasty. So Alice is crawling around trying to escape. Everyone's messed up at this point. I'm surprised anybody's even still alive, man. She's crawling through very slowly. There's music playing. Joe's getting tossed around in the background like a rag doll. There's just no way he dies, though, because he gets taken off screen. We all know what happens if you get taken off screen in a movie. You'll probably be fine, okay? It's time for Alice to find this dagger. She's using a brush cutter, which is an actual pretty cool weapon. It's an electric brush cutter, so as soon as she turns it on, the thing spins, and you can already see where this is going with that. Granny gets the jump on her. She starts beating her ass. She stabs her in the ear with the pen that was a gift to Joe at the beginning of the movie. And the sound design for hearing that thing go into her eardrum was actually pretty gross. I will say that. Anything that has to do with like inserting into my ear, I don't like that at all. Susan and Alice get locked into a bathroom. Alice finally gets to go off on mom about how crazy she is and how everything that's happened in Susan's life is like deserved because her family's fucking bonkers. Mom finally turns into a demon. She's tied to the radiator. She's going ham sandwich on Alice. She's hanging upside down on the ceiling. She's grabbing her by the hair, beating her ass. Joe gets in the attic, tries to get Alice. Or excuse me, Alice gets her with the brush cutter and does like some pretty decent damage to like her collarbones. And then she gets upstairs. She puts a hole in the ceiling with the brush cutter, goes upstairs into the attic, and starts rummaging around and has no idea where this dagger is. She doesn't even know what it looks like, okay? Joe gets in the attic and is like, "Yo, you deserve to get beat up. That's why Will beat you up. You liked getting beat up by Will, didn't you?" Again, really just harping on the DV aspect of this whole movie, which is just wild to me. She starts stabbing him with every knife that's on the ground, like literally just picking one up and stabbing him. And finally picks up the right one, stabs him. It's like this little like chody looking knife, really goofy looking knife. But gets him. He turns normal. He dies. She drops the floor, or she drops the knife on the floor outside. Excuse me. And now it's time for an epic fight scene on the roof, a la Marvel movies, which made me laugh out loud. Granted, it didn't last for very long, but it just made me think of like every superhero movie that ends up like with a giant fight scene on the roof. Um, Instead, she goes down the chimney, which is a great scene. And so she's sitting in the chimney, like tucked in with the brush cutter, and then, and then she jumps in and starts cutting her with the brush cutter, and then she plops to the floor, and then she lands on the mom for cushioning. And it's at this point that Alice finally gets the upper hand and starts setting the place on fire. She's dousing it in gasoline, and she sets it on fire just like the title Evil Dead Burn. Do you get it yet? Everything's gonna burn. By the way, at this point, Alice walks out of the house and kills the dog for the third time this movie. Just the cherry on top to really say fuck you. They kill Max 3 times. 3 times in this movie. There is no need for that dog to even die once, I would say. Will starts taunting Alice. You know, Will's burned corpse, mind you, comes out of the house saying, "You can leave. You love pain. You can't leave at all. You love getting DV'd." And at this point, dude, my head is spinning. I thought the movie was about to be over. No, we are just getting started with the ending. This dude comes walking out of the house like a T-1000 from Terminator 2, dude. I'm not even kidding. Burnt to a crisp, basically full skeleton, walking down the road. Nobody's around, apparently. Nobody's able to see this guy. He kind of looks like Imhotep from the Mummy movies with Brendan Fraser. Not a great CG job, I would say that, especially at the actual end of the movie, which we'll get into here in a second. Alice gets jumped and thrown into a ditch where she gets stabbed by rebar. This is like a construction site. Again, there's nobody around because it's nighttime, which kind of makes sense, but nobody in town is driving down the roads or anything like that to see this, demon that's just walking around. He starts filling up the ditch with hot asphalt. It's looking like the end, and just out of sheer willpower, she yanks the rebar out of her own ankle, like yanks her leg out of it, which is just badass, dude. She takes the dagger out of her pocket. Will grabs her by the throat. Turns out this is a fake dagger. She tosses the fake dagger into the hot asphalt and says, "Go get it, bitch." And he jumps in there. She jumps up on top of the ledge and grabs a jackhammer. And at this point, dude, I'm kind of checked out of the movie. I'm already done. The plot to me is already over. But she cranks on the jackhammer and starts jackhammering this demon in the chest, and it straight up looks like a PlayStation 3 video game cutscene. Like, it just looks so goofy. I don't know. Maybe it's supposed to be a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but to me it just looked so bad. She gets out. Will stabs her in the calf with the fake knife. So she turns around and gets the real dagger out, finally, grabs it, stabs him in the throat. It turns into the real life Will. So this is kind of like, her getting her get back for all the domestic violence and stuff like that, which, like, hell yeah. Amazing. And then she says that's not enough. So she actually grabs the dude's head and crushes it like a piece of paper. Literally just like crumbles it into pieces. It's amazing. She gets out and she's found by the cops, who are now down the road for some reason. I guess because the entire estate is on fire. And they ask, "Who did this to you?" And she says, "My ex-husband." Then she asks for a cig and smokes it. It's not a bad ending. And then she looks at the camera and one of her eyes has turned. Oh no, it's time for a sequel. I don't know, man. It genuinely, oh my gosh, I don't know. It's time for a sequel, basically. I don't know how that would happen if she literally killed all the Deadites, but I don't know, man. Fuck me. Well, guess we'll find out in the next episode of DBC. I appreciate you guys being here for this review. If you haven't already, go check out the merch website. It's where you get a cool shirt like this. Look at that. Sneaky Nut t-shirt. Pretty cool. You can wear it places that you wear t-shirts, playgrounds, libraries, cafeterias, maybe your local post office. Who knows? All right, well, that's about it. Appreciate you guys watching. Go check out the Discord, TikTok, twitch.tv/rsneakynut. Stream every single day. Bye, guys.